Okay, folks, it is 6 o'clock and it is Tuesday, July 9th. We are in the council chambers at the city of Platteville, and I am calling the regularly scheduled meeting of the Common Council to order. Colette will start with roll call.
Todd Casper,
Here.
Barbara Doss,
Here.
Bob Gates is excused, Ken Killian,
Here.
Tom Knoll,
Here.
Lynn Parrott, and Kathy Kopp.
Here.
Okay, the first item then on our agenda, we have a couple special presentations tonight. The first, University Welcome Weekend schedule. And so I invite Lisa and Abigail to the podium.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Lisa Kratz. I'm director of the Marquee Pioneer Student Center on the campus at UW Platteville. And I will let Abigail introduce herself, and she will be sharing between the two of us some information about our upcoming Welcome Weekend.
My name is Abigail Genevico. My title on campus is Involvement Coordinator for Campus Activities. I oversee all of the programming over Welcome Weekend, and that's what we're going to go over with you today. I apologize, I'm going to hand this out, but it does have smaller print on it. So if you have any questions, just let me know, or also the website is up to date, so you can go look there too. You're welcome to peruse the entire schedule, which is on the paper packet that is being sent around. But I just want to highlight a few things that I think are important for the community of Platteville to know more about. So all of our new students are moving in on Saturday, August 31st on Labor Day weekend. So this is going to look really just like it has the past several years. So all of our new students are moving in between 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. So you will see probably businesses that are busy, streets busy, parking, things like that, just for you to know about. Our continuing students move in on Sunday and Monday around the same time. So you'll also see probably an influx of people during those times as well. Also on Saturday during move-in, we will have a lunch option on campus for families, but really, we see a lot of families are going out into the community, so just a heads up for that. In the evening, we have an outdoor event. We've been lucky enough to have this event outdoor for the past 3 years where we take our class photo. So there will be kind of a loud noise where we'll have speakers and music. It's a large icebreaker activity. We have a speaker that comes in and introduces new students to one another. We hear from our chancellor and things like that. So it's early on in the evening, but just still a heads up for that. Looking onto Sunday, we have a few different things happening on campus. I want to highlight two things specifically. Bridge Fest, we usually have outside over by Bridgeway Commons. So that's an outdoor event that we usually have music at. Gets pretty loud, pretty busy with all of our student organizations. And then I also want to highlight Paint Glow, which we had for the first time last year. We had over 700 students attend this event, so it's kind of a late night event where we have a DJ out on the lawn next to the Marquee Pioneer Student Center and Williams Fieldhouse, and students just basically get sprayed with paint while listening to music. So 700 students came, they loved it, so we're having it again. We are moving it up in the evening, so it won't be as late as it was last year. So I didn't hear of any complaints, so hopefully nobody was upset about it. Monday, like I said, continuing students are moving in. And we also have a few outdoor events that evening. Get the Scoop on Greek Life is outdoor, but it's a pretty quiet, chill event. Pizza Palooza, an outdoor movie. We'll be starting that a little bit earlier than we have in the past as well, where we welcome local pizza businesses to serve pizza at the event. And then our outdoor movie usually starts around 8 o'clock or so. We used to have that on the west lawn, but now it's on the north lawn. So it's a little bit closer to just north of the university. But We're also ending that a little bit early. We're going to try to have that movie be short for like an hour and a half or so. Our students have been voting on that all summer. So it seems it's going to be between Happy Gilmore and the grown-ups. So if you're wondering what we're playing, that's going to be some of the options. Looking into the first week of classes, we have a few fun events for students. We're working with the chamber on an event called Community Fair. So you may remember this last year, we had a 2-day event where we welcomed local businesses, churches, restaurants to come to campus during that time, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and just meet with students. We had over 400 students on one of the days that it wasn't rained out. So it was pretty well attended the first year. If you have questions about this, or if you know of someone that wants to participate in this, the chamber is the one that's gathering all of the registrations for this. So they have been sending it out in their weekly, I think, emails. But if you have any questions, you can definitely contact the chamber about that. We also work with the Millennium Cinema on a dollar movie night regularly throughout the semester. So we'll be busing students out to the movie theater on that Wednesday for some late night movies. So those are just kind of those things that are really, I think, more in the community and off campus people would want to know about, but happy to talk about any of the events that you're seeing on that schedule that you want to know more about.
Anybody here enrolled as a new student? Oh, okay, not.
When's the first day of class?
First day of class is that Tuesday, September 3rd. Yep. We've had 2 weeks of orientation so far this summer. We're next week, I think Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll have another group of new students coming to campus. We usually have about over 100 new students each day. So you might see that there's a lot more students and families coming to town. And then we have a few in August as well too. So yeah. Awesome. Well, if you go to the university website, you just search welcome activities and that's all of our events. So if you have questions about anything, you can feel free to look there. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa and Abigail. Okay, we'll move on to our second special presentation, which is the 2023 audited financial statements, and Brent is here from Johnson and Block. And if you want to look, if you're in the audience, you can look on the screen on the south wall. Council members can see the same thing, not only in the handout, but on the monitor in front of them.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Brent Nelson, audit partner with Johnson Block and Company CPAs, here presenting on the 2023 audited financial statements. So the city's audit was wrapped up last week and was included in the board packet. It's a lengthy document. So I do have a copy of that with me if there are any questions on the detail, but tonight I was going to keep it fairly high level, go over the high level summary in the PowerPoint. So just a quick overview of what's all included in our audit. So we finished the audit, last week, sent that out to the city council. So if you have any questions tonight, I'll leave time tonight. Otherwise, feel free to email me whenever questions come up. We issued unmodified opinions, which is a good thing. So nothing came to our attention that caused us to believe the financial statements in our report were not in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So unmodified opinions is a good thing. That's a clean opinion on the financial statements. The scope of our audit included all the city funds. So it included the general fund, the TIF districts, all the different governmental funds, and including the utility activities. So the water, sewer, utility, all that was captured within our 2023 audit. Before we went final with the audit, we sent out a draft that management had a chance to review and approve. So we received management's approval before we went final with everything. In addition to the audit report, we also issue we help prepare a couple regulatory reports for the city, namely the PSC report. So that's the Public Service Commission that regulates the water utility. We help with that submission. And then a municipal financial report, Form C, that gets submitted to the Department of Revenue on an annual basis. One thing we haven't completed yet related to 2023 is the single audit. It's an additional compliance audit. And this isn't new to the city here in recent years anyway, there's been a lot of federal money flowing through the city, at least the last handful of years. We used to not have to do a single audit, or it's kind of hit or miss, but with the steady inflow of ARPA, now with the fire department, all family advocates building. So that's triggering some additional compliance audit work. So we'll be wrapping that up in August, September. Some highlights for 2023, sorry. Overall, looking at all the governmental funds, so your general fund, your capital projects fund, the TIF district, overall, looking at them all in total, was a decrease in fund balance of about 12,600. So pretty flat in the grand scheme of things. At the fund level, so each fund is a self-balancing fund. It has its own revenues and expenses. So the general fund, which gets the most attention, it's your main operating fund. General fund for 2023 increased 82,759. Capital projects fund increased 260,000. And the capital project fund fluctuates a lot depending on when debt issuances happen. So that's never really a flat fund. It's always up and down depending on borrowings, but depending on grant funding. The fire facility fund, so it's a relatively new fund to the city that the city set up to track the revenues and expenses for that fire department facility. So through 2023, it's mainly just expenses, tracking the costs that are going into that. Down the road, those expenses will get recovered by some grant funding, maybe some debt issuances. But for 2023, it showed a decrease in fund balance just from expenditures of about 123,000. Airport fund is a separate fund that decreased 84,500. TIF district number 6 decreased 96,000. 2023 was a heavy debt service year for TIF district number 6. So a decrease in fund balance there. Overall, with the general fund, as far as comparing the actual results versus the 2023 budget, had favorable results. So revenues came in higher than expected or than budgeted. Expenses came in lower. So overall, good results, actual results compared to the budget. And then on the utility side, so the utility is a separate fund, separate from the general fund, separate from everything else. Water and sewer utility increased 1,453,000. So a strong year in the utility fund. So looking specifically at the general fund balance, a 5-year trend. So on the far right is what was the city's fund balance as of December 31st, 2023. So in total, the city's general fund balance was 4,694,000. Comparing that to the last 5 years, and it's pretty steady. You know, add to 2022, 4.6 million, and to 21, 4.6 million. So overall, the general fund balance has been steady, pretty flat. We are, for the audit, required to classify fund balance in different categories. So there's non-spendable fund balance, restricted, assigned, and unassigned. So non-spendable is just what it's fund balance, but it's not money sitting in the bank that you can go spend. So for the general fund, the main non-spendable is just amounts owed primarily from TIF district number 6 that the general fund fronted costs in TIF 6 with the hope and anticipation that that'll be recovered down the road, but it won't happen in the short term. And then assigned and restricted, those are monies earmarked for specific purposes. And then unassigned is gets the most attention. That's your more discretionary fund balance. So just talk a little bit about general fund balance. So the city has a policy, what it wants its unassigned fund balance to be. So that's that discretionary component of general fund balance. So the city's policy is that it wants to maintain a minimum unassigned fund balance of 20% of annual expenditures. So that's the city's policy, and it's very common across our municipal clients. So the table is just tracking how that unassigned fund balance is comparing to its policy. And the city's been always above that minimum target. So good things. So as of the end for 2023, unassigned fund balance represented 28% of annual expenditures. So comparing that to that minimum level of 20% above that target. Looking at general fund revenue is just a 3-year trend of the general fund revenues. In 2023, general fund revenue was little over $9.4 million. The biggest parts of that are taxes. And it's a good chunk of that is property taxes, but there's other taxes that go into that too. So taxes makes up 40% of the general fund revenue. And then intergovernmental makes up about 40% as well. So between those two categories, intergovernmental, so your state aids, your shared revenues, your property taxes, makes up about 80% of the general fund budget. General property taxes in 2023 versus 2022 increased about 6%. More of that went into the general fund and less to the capital projects for 2023. So there was an uptick in how much general fund revenue went, how much general property tax went to the general fund in 2023 versus 2022. Intergovernmental revenue is that third line down. It's been flat for 10 years plus, 3.8 million. The state shared revenue was flat for a long time. So what's not shown here is 2024. 2024 was the first year really we saw an uptick in that state shared revenue. So it's not shown in this table, but next year, if you're looking at a similar analysis, you'll see an uptick in intergovernmental revenue. General fund expenditures, another 3-year trend graph. General fund expenses were for 2023, $9.8 million compared to about $9.2 million in 2022. So about a 7% increase in general fund expenditures year over year. And 7% is about what we're seeing right now for our municipalities, just with inflation, with costs going up. So revenues went up, I said 6-7%, pretty consistent with what we saw on the expense side. The biggest functions, general fund expenditure functions, are public safety, which is your police, your fire, your building inspection, and leisure activities, so your parks, costs like that. Last 3 years, when the general fund's unassigned fund balance gets high, or well above policy, the city will oftentimes transfer money over to the capital projects fund. So for 2023 transfers, so the general fund transferred money out totaling $572,000. So that varies depending on fund balance, but the last couple of years it's been anywhere from around 300,000 to 550 or more, 550,000 or more. Just a quick slide on the utility side of things, just to switch gears away. 5-year trend in revenues, expenses, how the utilities net income has been. For 2023, saw an increase in revenue, almost $6.2 million. We've seen a steady increase in the utility revenue, and there's been some new rate increases that have happened over time. So sewer rates went up in about 5% in 2021. So we saw an uptick in revenue there. New water rates went into effect early April 2022. So 2023 was the first year seeing a full year of those new utility rates. The water utility rate of return was 4.32%. That's from the PSC report. And I compared that to what the municipal average is across the state. And the average I saw was 4.8%. Common benchmark we see is 5%. So I think, yeah, that 4.32% is a pretty good rate of return to be at. So net income I mentioned earlier for 2023, 1.4 million, which might seem like a lot. That doesn't mean cash necessarily went up 1.4 million. So not included in expenses where you're just repaying your debt. It was 1,250,000. So that the revenues less expenses doesn't tell the whole story on cash flow, is what I'm trying to get at. Another slide just on what the outstanding long-term debt that the city has on the books as of the beginning of 2023 and at the end of 2023. So governmental activities, so that'd be your TIF districts, your capital projects fund, your debt service fund. Beginning of the year had 20,824,000 of outstanding debt. There was some new borrowings and repayments, about $20 million in debt at the end of the year. So paid down debt and net by about $1 million. Business type activities, that's gonna be your utilities. Beginning of the year, 18,500,000 of debt, had some borrowings in 2023, end of the year about 19 million, so up over $500,000 in utility debt. The state has a debt limit, so the city can't issue as much debt as it wants. There is a limit that the state imposes, and it's 5% of equalized value within the city's jurisdiction in its territory. So 5% of city of Platteville calculates to 48, almost $49 million. Comparing that to what the city actually is at, 18,723,000. So the city's well below that state mandated threshold. So there is capacity there to issue more debt if a need arises. Just to wrap up, so overall conclusions, city has a healthy general fund balance, well exceeds its minimum target, debt capacity if debt ever needs to be issued. And then that utility rate of return I mentioned for the water utility is about 4.3%, a little bit below the state average, but still providing adequate cash flow for current operations. There is an audit communication that went out with the board packet too. I wasn't going to go into detail on that, but I invite you to read through that. It's a lot of it's standard communications that we're required to submit to the city council every year. The city audit went great. We're on site early in the year. I think it was February for the utility side of things, because we focus on the utility because those due dates are a little bit earlier. And then we come back in April, I think it was April, to wrap up the city work. So appreciate all the help that the city personnel provides us while we're on site and remotely. We can do a lot remotely too, but we're on site a couple of days a year too. Any questions with anything?
Questions? Ken?
Well, I have a question about the management letter.
Sure.
I thought that's going to be part of your final summary here,
So,
because I looked it over and, after going through 90 pages of material and so forth, you talk about the management level, and that's pages, looks like 1 through 10. So you wrote a management letter, and as I looked at it, on that letter, you have in the last paragraph, should you desire assistance in implementing any of the following suggestions? And I thought, well, what are the suggestions that you're talking about? I thought it would have been helpful to list the suggestions.
sure.
So these are on the following pages. So you have suggestions adjusting journal entries correctly? That's correct?
Well, those are the journal entries we made to the city's books. So our starting point is the city's, from the city software. That's our starting point for the beginning balances that we use. And then we make adjustments from there if we see it.
So then you have, as far as suggestions, you have adjusting journal entries. Then you have past journal entries, that's 2. Then you have other comments on operations and internal control. And then you have in there GASB number 101, and I'm lost as to what GASB is, number 101. I thought you could have written that out. And then we get down to journal entries. And here it says something about posted by the controller. Now we no longer have a controller, according to what I've been told. And so the controller has a new title, according to Nicola, right?
But Ken, this is an audit for the year 2023.
Yes. but-
So we would have had that
but
position then, right?
We passed that before the end of 2023.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Question is, we changed the title to the controller to
We-
finance and another.
County and
name.
Finance Manager, yes, same position, different title.
Yes.
Yes, same position, different title.
But it has a different name. I
Yes,
thought-
different title.
Maybe in this management letter, he could have cited a different name because it's been changed. And then,
Well, it wasn't changed as of the effective date of the report, which is December 31st, 2023. So it was more accurate to include the title as it was when this year concluded, when 2023 concluded.
looking at it, I thought that could have been changed because we're working with it already. Okay, then, also, what was the other one that you had here? Appendix, and you give appendix was all. And then, through the years, we've used the terminology common council. We don't, call it city council, but technically it's been called the common council. So these are things that I see. So the management letter, is that final, the way you've written it?
So this communication is final. There will be, when we issue that single audit report, there will be an additional communication, report on internal controls. Sometimes that's included in here, but when we have to do a separate compliance report, we include it there. So there will be an additional report. So yeah, I could certainly in the future change that to be common council instead of city council.
And going back here, appendix 3, management representation letter. And that I assume from first what I can read came from, looking at the last page, came from Jennifer Miller and over here. And to me, it's hard to read some of these names. I think the names should have been printed so that we could read them. And then that particular document is full of dots, and I don't know what the mess was that was created there.
I think he's referencing the Housing Authority letter.
Yes, but
Yeah,
this is, when you read through this is all written up and it's all full of dots.
yeah, I can respond. So yeah, that last letter, the management representation letter. So at the conclusion of any audit we do, not just for the city, any village, any nonprofit, for-profit, we have to, our auditee, so the city in this case, has to sign off on a representation letter. We call it a management representation letter. Basically, I know it's a lot of words, and I think maybe it was a scan, they sign it and they scan it, so it didn't look maybe the cleanest here, a couple dots. So it's basically the management, in this case, the city, a city management personnel, and then so the housing authority is also included in the city audit. So we did have management of the housing authority sign off on that letter too. But it basically them attesting that everything they've said is truthful. We haven't omitted, we haven't kept anything from the auditors. So it's a lot of words saying that, but that's the gist of what everything we've represented to you is true. Everything the city has represented to us, and we haven't not been truthful. We've let you know everything. So that's what, and that's new. I think we never had to include that in this communication, but new guidance said they wanted this in the or the common council's packet. So that's, their manual signatures are can be hard to read, but yeah, so it's a city management person and then a housing authority management person signing off that everything for the audit is accurate to the best of their belief. And then with some of your other comments, so the journal entries we recorded for the audit adjustments, so those are all included in that packet, just for full transparency. If you ever want to know what changes we made, you can look right back at this communication and see. And if you ever have any questions, why are they moving this to here? So that's just, full transparency. We started with the city's balances. Here's the changes we made to get to the ending audited balances. You mentioned page 9. as far as recommendations or things to keep in mind. I didn't go into detail, but GASB 101, you weren't sure what GASB meant, and you're right, that probably should be spelled out. So this is kind of our opportunity to let cities know what accounting pronouncements are coming down the road. They're not effective yet for 2023, but it's coming up for 2024. So GASB stands for Governmental Accounting Standards Board. So they issue new standards all the time. So there's a new standard coming out for 2024 that'll impact the audit. So it's a brief summary of what that's going to change. And yeah, journal entries. Yeah, I didn't, to be honest, didn't realize the title change or the city was changing the title of that position until tonight. So yeah, we use the old title, comptroller. That's who we worked with. That was one of the main individuals we worked with on the audit. So we use that
I
title.
only gave this one thing about following suggestions to help read this, period.
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah, and it's standard communication.
Management letter. That's my comment.
Yep, appreciate the comment. Yeah, the communication, a lot of it's standard, so I maybe skip over it more than I should, but it talks about what the significant estimates are in the financial statements. We don't know everything for sure. Some things are estimate. What we feel like are the biggest note disclosures. So that's thing, in the future presentations, kind of give it a high level, more of a thorough review. I can certainly do that. What's in that communication, because it's a lengthy document. I agree.
Okay, anybody else with questions? Tom, Kathy, Lynn?
No.
Todd? Okay, and I have none. Thank you, Brent, for your presentation. And as you noted, the full audit report was included in the packet. And I'm assuming there are hard copies available in the office. Is that correct, Nicola? Do you have a hard copy in the office?
I don't think yet. Our primary
think
point of
they're coming.
emphasis is to send the electronic, because we know that,
Okay,
but they'll be coming. I think we have you down for five
okay,
copies,
All right.
and we can send more certainly.
All right. That'd be
So-
great.
so.
All right. Well, thank you.
All right, thank you.
And thank you to our staff who spent. Is that one yours?
Yeah,
You're like, what the heck is
better
that noise?
stomp on it.
Okay,
Better kill-
all right. Let us move on then to consideration of tonight's consent agenda. There are several items, a lot of items on this consent agenda, like a half a page. If you want a separate discussion on any of those, please let me know. Otherwise, they can be approved on a single motion and on a single action. We have the minutes from the June 25th regular meeting, payment of the bills, the financial report for June. I have no appointments to boards or commissions. I do need volunteers for boards and commissions. So if you know of people who want to serve, we have several openings on several boards and commissions. We have licenses in your packet. 1 and 2 year operator licenses to serve and sell alcohol as noted. Temporary Class B license to serve fermented malt beverages to the Friends of the Gallery doing business as Roundtree Gallery at 120 West Main Street from 4 to 7 for artist receptions on Friday, August 16th and Friday, October 4th. A temporary Class B license to serve fermented malt beverages to the Friends of the Gallery at 120 West Main and the City Park Gazebo from noon to 7 p.m. for the Chalk and Cheese Fest on Saturday, August 24th. A temporary Class B permit to serve fermented malt beverages to the Democratic Party of Grant County. Location, the Brodsky Center from 4:30 to 8 for their annual picnic, Friday, July 19th. Another temporary Class B to serve fermented malt beverages to the Platteville J.C.'s for Legion Park. This would be from 11 a.m. to midnight on July 13th for the rescheduled 4th of July celebration. And a Class B combination beer and liquor license for Restaurante Los Amigos for the premises at 135 East Main. We also have a street closing permit for Irving Place. This would be next to City Park, south of City Park on Saturday, August 24th from 8 to 5 for the Chalk and Cheese Fest. A fireworks permit for the Fireworks Committee at Legion Field for dusk on Saturday, July 13th. Again, for our rescheduled 4th of July celebration and the Grant County Highway Construction Aids for 2025. Do I hear a motion?
I move to approve all items listed under the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Lynn and a second by Tom to approve the consent agenda as presented. Colette will vote.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
yes,
no,
Yes.
Barrett,
Yes.
Cap,
Yes.
motion carries.
All right, next item is our citizens' comments, observations, and petitions, if any. And I would like to start by saying, good teamwork for the 4th of July committee that had to figure out how to reschedule, and for city staff who went above and beyond on that day to find out if in fact we could do this on the 13th. So Sid, it was a great amount of scurrying due to the rain. And I would also like to congratulate the Mining and Rollo Jameson Museums on a very successful Heritage Day. There were a lot of people there, and yeah, the food was good. Band was good. Kids had a good time. So did families. All righty, anybody else? Kathy?
I would like to make a citizen comment
Okay,
about the 4th of July. I am part of that committee, and I agree with tenfold. When we had to make that very difficult, our president sitting right out here, it's always a scramble. And our challenge was that it was a holiday. And I want to publicly apologize to Clint and Bob and Jen and everybody that I ended up having to call and making contact with on a holiday to make this happen. So it was every department. Jen popped into, because to reschedule, you have to make sure that the Broski's not used, that there's not ball games. It's not just simply, oh, we're just gonna postpone it to another date. It was a lot of scrambling. And the committee could not have done that without the city's help. So thank you very much. It was a real team effort, and I hope everybody comes out on Saturday.
will there be food?
Of course, there'll be food.
All right.
And music.
Bring a hot.
And music.
And music.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
And fireworks.
And fireworks.
Houses be there.
The jumping houses.
Yeah.
Lynn wants to go to the jumping
There
house.
will be a kids zone, but not the
Not the-
bouncy houses.
Not no bouncy houses, sorry. They probably were scheduled for somewhere else, so. All right, any other citizens' comments, observations, or petitions?
Madam President, I'd like to recognize Building Platteville for another year of a gracious donation of $1,600 that was contributed to the city for the purchasing of the hanging baskets that you just see displayed on Main Street, making that a very vibrant and lively and beautiful look. Thank you.
Okay, any other? Then we'll move on to reports in the packet. The Housing Authority Board, I attended my first meeting and I have nothing to report. Water and sewer financial reports for June were in the packet. The airport financial report for June was in the packet. The CIP quarterly status up report. Nicola, did you want to say anything about that?
Only just to point out that projects that are from a prior year have a darker shading in the report. But if you have any questions about any projects, the directors are here and can answer.
Ken, do you have a question about
well.
VIP
it's
projects?
something that's been gone through already, and this was the one about Grant County. That was on another here. And the situation in Grant County is that we've been for years getting $2,000 from Grant County, and that's been the same number, as I said, years and years. I think that ought to be increased up to something like 10,000 a year. So we get some additional money for fun.
I guess that would be a request we would have to make to the county board for their county highway aids, I guess.
Yes. And
That would
also-
be, but you are right. We did adopt that in our consent agenda.
And then another one, you have the Housing Authority Board meeting. I looked at that. And you have, you're a member now. So it says others present. Well, others present is Jen Weber and her title. And also in that document, you need a list whether citizens can say anything. You have no entry whatsoever at the Housing Authority meeting. So that needs to. I'm here, the board requested Weber increase the font of meeting minutes. It's a little hard to find all these things as we go through. There's a lot of, for me, a lot of paper.
All right, we're back to the CIP quarterly status update. Does anybody have any questions on any of the projects on the CIP quarterly status report? It's a 4-page report that was in the packet. And it's very detailed, going through each of the departments with the CIP monies that were allocated and whether there have been expenditures and whether they're over budget, under budget, and the like. Anybody with any questions on any of the CIP projects? Okay. The other thing in the packet then were the department quarterly reports. Anybody with any questions of staff on the quarterly reports?
Okay, I have a question. A lot of information here. And I guess my first question is, finance division, how many people work in the finance division?
We have a utility billing specialist, 2 accounting specialists, and the accounting and finance manager.
What did you say?
We have a utility billing specialist, 2 accounting specialists, and a accounting and finance manager.
So 4.
So 4 total.
So you wrote down your finance division, clerk division. I guess,
Information technology,
yeah,
and then,
and one
Administrator
for the
director.
director.
right. Those are those are the subsections of the department she oversees.
Right.
Correct.
I do have a question though about here. Worked with the insurer on fuel loss claim for airport, and I read in the journal a few days ago that we have fuel contains lead. Can you tell me, as far as the airplanes are concerned, is there any lead in the fuel that is deposited, left on the ground around Platteville because of the plane? Is there
I'm
fuel-
not qualified to answer that question.
is
I
there fuel
apologize.
With lead,
Um,
I look up in the sky and I see them making a turn land. And so who is landing? Are they spraying lead on me and I'm supposed to?
I can inquire from the airport manager as to lead content in,
what's the-
Exhaust.
2 different kinds of fuel.
I guess in exhaust.
Find out which fuel contains the lead. If that's true, did I read something that was true from another city?
As I said, I'm not qualified to answer that question, but I can certainly reach out to the airport and see if we can get some information for you. You're welcome.
Okay, other questions on department progress reports? Not, then we'll move on to the action items on our agenda tonight. The first one, action item then is acquisition of the Claire properties. And we'll kick that over, I guess, to Joe. No, to Clint. Well, Clint and Joe, are you gonna tag team it or what?
I'll tee it up, and if there's any
Okay.
questions, of course, I'll defer to the
Okay.
smart one in the room. So description on this one is we've moved forward, of course, with the 3 Claire properties. As part of state statute 6223-5, the city would refer this to the Plan Commission to make recommendation and advise on action. Because the Plan Commission was unable to achieve a quorum at their last meeting, and because now we've lapsed over 30 days for them making a referral, the Common Council can take action without a report or recommendation to kind of finalize that transaction. So we're looking for a formality motion tonight to move forward with a initiative to complete the Claire Properties acquisition. Did I miss anything there, Joe?
Okay, any questions? This would, we have talked about this. We know the 3 tracks. We know the amount that we paid. Or we're paying, I guess. We haven't paid it yet. But this would enable the transaction to continue and for us to be able to close on these properties. So do I hear questions or a motion?
A motion to complete the Claire Properties acquisition.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Todd, a second by Lynn to complete the Claire Properties acquisition. Colette will vote.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, the second item on our agenda then is resolution 24-07, authorizing the city manager to implement a donations memorial, naming of public properties, and foundation partnership policy. So this is it, authorizing him to implement. Clint.
Correct. Thank you, Madam President. So yes, asking tonight for motion and adopting that resolution, which directs the city manager in broad strokes to implement the donation policy with broad bullets on there, and then allowing your city manager to work with partners and with city staff on making that administrative document something that's going to continue to evolve and work for partners. I'd like to thank the many folks that put efforts into this, including the multiple times it was served up to our leadership here, staff members, to donors, to a couple willing to pilot some of the donations that were given. Recent changes that you'll see on it as we scrubbed it again for typos, grammar, and spelling. And then we did add on the donation form on the very top corner recognition if the donor authorizes the city to publicly recognize their donation through reports, media, and internet sources. So those were the changes that were made since the last time you've seen it. And again, recommending that we adopt the resolution 2407 this evening. Thank you, Madam President.
And so to be clear, we're adopting a resolution that allows you to implement a policy. This policy may evolve over time, so specific areas of it may change, may be rewritten, is that correct?
Yes, and we
So-
would be doing due diligence to make sure that you folks are abreast on it. Some of it that certainly does touch you, Madam President, is the authorizations when we get to certain levels of financial contribution that you folks would still have to take action to accept, and as well as donations that are going to obligate the city towards continued finance or resources of maintenance of effort.
So the resolution that we're adopting is a one-page resolution 24-07, and you have given us an example of what you would say you would be working with presently. This is not, this is a living document.
It is, and we're going to make sure that we capture changes to the document as well with a track appendix, as we'd want to have a document in place that, when a donation is made, that those were the rules that were in place at the time of that donation.
Questions? Do I hear?
Naming of public properties and foundation partnership policy.
We have a motion and a second to adopt resolution 2407. Motion by Kathy, second by Ken. Colette will vote.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
Hop. Motion carries.
Okay, that's the last action item on our agenda. The first information and discussion is a dissolution of the Freudenreich Animal Care Advisory Committee. Currently, we have this committee. This would be an ordinance repealing Section 3-24 ordinance, a Freudenreich Animal Care Fund. Nicola.
Thank you. So we talked about this committee and the fund quite a bit last year. But just to briefly review, in 1990, actually, Georgine Freudenreich provided a financial legacy to the city for the purpose of establishing and maintaining an animal shelter. The funds that she provided were not enough in and of themselves to establish and maintain a shelter. However, the city did enter into an agreement with her estate to invest the funds and use the earnings on those funds for animal care in the city of Platteville. And as a part of that agreement, the city established the Freudenreich Animal Care Fund, and a committee was formed at that time to advise the city on administration of the funds. On September 28th of 1999, this committee's structure and role was actually formalized in the city municipal code, and it was named the Freudenreich Animal Care Advisory Committee. And since then, the fund earnings have been used to provide support for the stray animal program, for adoptions, for animal care educational materials at the library, and for articles in the local newspaper, and for some contributions to humane societies. Now, last year, as I just mentioned, the city was approached by the Grant County Humane Society. They actually went to the Freudenreich Animal Care Advisory Committee and were looking for some support, financial support for establishment of a new facility in the city to provide an animal shelter. And so this was exactly what Georgine Freudenreich had hoped for and wanted. And so this was intended to be a contribution towards the total cost of the facility. Certainly did not pay for the facility, but was a contribution to help with that. So this council voted to approve the use of the fund's principal and earnings that were made for that purpose, and to close the Animal Care Trust Fund. However, the actual dissolution of the advisory committee did not take place at that time. So this is a formality to actually formally dissolve the advisory committee and to repeal that section of the municipal code.
Okay, any questions on this? This basically is a housekeeping item. There is no fund anymore. There is no activity, so there is no need for this committee. And so this would repeal the committee that has been previously looking at that.
And as we consider this, I want to make sure that we send our heartfelt thanks to the members of the committee, many of which served for a large number of years, because the committee required 3 vets to sit on the committee. And so we don't have a huge pool of vets in the city. So So the vets of the city served on this committee for many, many years at no cost. So we appreciate that.
All right, that will be on the agenda in 2 weeks for action. Next item on our information and discussion is the 2025 proposed budget schedule. Again, Nicola.
Yes, I'm popular tonight. That might be a stretch, but anyway, so this is the schedule that we've put together with dates. It gives you an idea of the budget process that we go through and some key components of that process, and also some meetings that will involve some or all of the council. The yellow highlighted items are the actual council meetings, and the asterisked items are ones that are special meetings. So you'll see that on August the 13th, there will be a work session for the council to review the future strategic planning process. On September 24th, so that's part of a regularly scheduled council meeting. On September 24th, also a regularly scheduled council meeting, there will be a work session to review the 5-year capital budget document. And then October 8th will be presentation of the city manager budget to the Common Council at the regularly scheduled council meeting. And then on Tuesday, October 15th, there will be a review session for the city manager operational budget for the city of Platteville, and that will be at 5 o'clock. And then another, if needed, session would be prior to the regularly scheduled council meeting. So that would be at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, October 22nd, if necessary. And then finally, the public hearing for the budget will be on Tuesday, November the 26th at this scheduled council meeting. Then you can see that also represented in blue are some water and sewer commission meetings. And in the light tan is some regularly scheduled airport meetings.
And it looks like you're already well into departments completing worksheets and starting their submission process.
Well, I'd like to say we're a little further ahead than we are. You may see some of these directors smiling down here as they haven't gotten their worksheets as of yet. But we will be getting those out to them as soon as possible.
Okay, questions on the budget schedule? So it appears the only special meeting that is for sure is October 15th. Otherwise, with an October 22nd if needed. Otherwise, all budget meetings are part of the regularly scheduled council meetings.
Correct.
Okay. And again, October 22nd would be an if needed meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Ken?
Where do you intend to post the schedule?
We can post it in the normal places, such as at the library and in City Hall and on the website. Is there anywhere else you would like us to post
You
it?
gonna send any schedules to the council at all?
We have,
Well,
we have it.
This one here, we have to rip out of the whatever.
if you'd like a separately printed copy, I can certainly provide that, yes.
I just was wondering.
Would you like me to print one?
Send me a copy so I can hang it up at home. Thank you.
Okay, any,
Also,
okay.
We're down almost to the end here, aren't we?
Just a minute. I'm asking, does anybody else have any questions on this budget schedule? Okay, so make sure and mark your calendar for October 15th. I would assume that in some of the committee work now, that we will hear about proposed projects and be discussing those as directors think about their budgets for the next year. But I believe that would be true.
It's fair to say we're going to be speaking budget tomorrow morning with directors.
All right. I believe that ends that discussion. So we have no other items on our agenda except adjournment.
I'll move
So
that we have.
just-
Is he raising his hand for something?
No, I think he's putting his hat on, it looked to me like.
I would like to have this item on a future agenda. And I think it'd easily be done next time. And this is the question as to what is the status of the library as far as being given or dedicated or changed over to the city of Platteville.
I think,
Kind of been lost in oblivion here as far as what's supposed to be happening here.
did Clint, can you share the article that you? Yeah, I think Clint, very, very recently in the last maybe 2 weeks, there was an article and a press release on what's going on. So we can share that with you, and then if you have
Where
questions.
was the article?
What was posted, it was in the newspaper, I believe, Steve, you published it in the newspaper, I saw it in the newspaper. And I believe I saw a snippet of it in the Telegraph Herald. And I know it was on our website. So I can think of 3 or 4 places that I saw it. So if you can get him a copy of what you wrote, that would be great.
Certainly, Madam President.
All right,
I'd appreciate that.
okay. And I think it was in maybe 2 weeks ago.
Newspaper, so I don't necessarily read all of the Platteville Journal.
Wow. I don't know if we want to know that. I don't know if we need that admission tonight.
I do, Steve.
Yeah, some of us read it cover to cover.
Oh, yeah.
I be looking.
There we go.
I bet.
All right.
I
Do
so
we-
move that we adjourn.
A second.
All right, we have a motion by Tom and a second by Kathy to adjourn. Colette will vote.
Casper,
Yes.
Doss,
Yes.
Killian,
Yes.
Noel,
Yes.
Parrot,
Yes.
Cop,
Yes.
motion carries.